Welcome, everybody. It's your boy, the Versace Stunner, with another episode of VSW Podcast. And my God, this one's a giant one. I mean, if you listen to our NCW WrestleFest recap, a lot of action that night and a lot of great moments. And, two things that stood out. You know, this individual and, Dylan Nix at the end, standing in the ring, and only one would win that Oxbaker Cup. And then the finale, seeing this individual crowned the new NCW champion. Such an emotional night for everyone in attendance, and of course, that we're talking about Robbie the Giant. I don't know. Hopefully, I didn't botch his name. Anyways, let's give him a call and let's talk some wrestling, huh?
Hello, hello.
Hey, Robbie.
What's up?
How you doing? Welcome to the VSW podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Um, you know, um, I was just telling my fans and they're probably your fans too. If they were listening to my NCW recap, just such an emotional night. For you, a lot of just great things that happened. But we'll get to that a little bit later. I got just a couple of things, questions and so forth, and like to go through. I was just kind of curious, just when did you start getting into wrestling?
So I started getting into wrestling in 2006. You mean like training wise or
Yeah.
fan wise? So training wise was back in 2006 at a school called Slam Tech University. That was run by Bob Evans, actually.
Oh,
Me
Brutal
and
Bob.
Yep, me and my best friend at the time, we grew up loving wrestling, and we thought it would be cool one day to train and do it, and eventually we made our way over to Bob Evans' school. That's where we
That's great.
started.
Bob's a great guy. He helps a lot of people in the industry. Really, a very positive influence. Um, and so you said you grew up watching wrestling. I think a lot of people in the industry either grew up watching it, seeing it on TV, being like I want to be that person. I want to walk through the stage. I want the crowd cheers. I want a title. I want this. I want that. We get that passion and we see it. And it's kind of nice to see because a lot of people I'm seeing now today are actually living out their childhood dreams.
Absolutely, you have to, and that's why I think I love still wrestling to this day, because I think of what my 8-year-old self, 9-year-old self, 10-year-old self, how they felt watching wrestling and wanting that to be that wrestler. And now that I've been doing wrestling, I feel like still as that kid, I still have to keep going because deep down, I'm always gonna love the sport, the job of wrestling.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I mean, it's just something that's just all ages. I mean, I go to a lot of shows, and I mean, I see everybody from those 8-year-olds to people in their well into their 70s sitting in the crowd enjoying the show.
No, absolutely. That's the best part. There's some shows that are all ages, some shows that are adult oriented, some shows that they just want to see brutality, some shows people just want to see a good time and have a good laugh. And I think that's one of the things I like about that I can adapt to is seeing all those different aspects of wrestling shows. Because me, it's all about the people watching.
Yeah, yeah, no. And I was gonna ask another question. Um, I kind of looked into wrestling at one point when I was younger, and I don't know. I went in, I looked around, like everyone was like really bigger than me, a lot bigger than me. I'm not a big person per se, and at the time, I just wrestling wasn't for everyone. I feel at the time in the 2000s, early 2000s, that they were still on this big man kind of. You got to be big statured, or it's just not going to be sellable. Nobody wants to see you. So I ended up going like the boxing route because everybody had their own weight division. But you said you jumped in like around '06. Did you find it hard to like break in being a smaller stature wrestler?
Absolutely. I mean, obviously, I've never been that body build type character. I had my height going for me, but I grew up watching wrestling, watching guys like Spike Dudley, Rey Mysterio, guys like all of them, Scotty 2 Hotty, guys that were a lot smaller but were making a name for themselves, and
Yeah.
that's what I always strive for. But that you're right, that time era, the body game was against a lot of people, including myself, because that's not what a lot of people were looking for.
Flash forward now, we got, people like Mako Stone. We got people like, all sizes and heights are welcome in wrestling. I feel as long as you can, perform and you can even just be really good on the mic. You don't have to really, be this gigantic, Andre the Giant kind of wrestler coming out, throwing your opponent across the it's just more realistic now than it was back in the 80s and early 90s and 2000s earlys, where you did have these larger than life characters. You still do today, but they're more on the level of, well, he kind of looks like me if I just worked out. It's more obtainable.
No, absolutely. I think that's why wrestling's now for everybody, because of the fact that you have big guys, little guys, you have men, women, you have all races, you have guys that are girls and girls that are guys, you have large guys, short guys. There's like so many different you have a company like GCW that's all hardcore based. You have companies like WB that's corporate internet based, corporate entertainment based. Like there's so many different varieties of wrestling that it's great now compared to what it used to be.
Yeah, it's so much more inclusive. I mean, before, at certain eras, it would just be, young adults and guys only, and other, it was, just children. And now I think, as an industry as a whole, I think they finally found it a way that there's something really there for everyone. And constantly, too, like 24/7. You can turn on almost, I think what is it, like Spike TV or something has like just constant wrestling going 24/7. And,
Exactly.
and, and there's just more obtainable ways. You can go to YouTube, you can go, even on Facebook, Instagram, all these places, all these outlets where there it wasn't there. Social media wasn't there. There's more ways than ever to even communicate with your favorite superstars on any of the levels, even on the world's grandest stage. But okay, so you went to Bob Evans School, you trained there, and you started to work some shows.
Yeah, about I think it was 7 months, 7, 8 months after started training. Myself and my best friend, we got to actually have our first tag match for Bob, because Bob for a while had his own school. He had his own school place, and he had his own company. So our first match was actually run by Bob in front of our middle school, in front of friends, family, and so I got pretty spoiled for a very first time match. As a lot of people do know, it was myself and my partner Ian, and we were put up against Max Bauer and Handsome Johnny. And for those that don't know those names, Max Bauer was Mickey Keegan from NXT, and of course Handsome Johnny, Todd Hansen, Ivar in the WWE. So we got pretty spoiled and a great opportunity in our first crack in the ring.
That's pretty amazing. Not everybody gets that opportunity. Most just get, hey, you're gonna go into this battle royal tonight. You're not gonna be in there for long.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Battle, we had our share of battle royals after, and share of, you know, matches shows that didn't live up to that hype. But our first time starting was definitely, well deserved, and
But that's kind of nice, though, to kind of jump in there and work with, someone better, someone that's already been through it all. You kind of learn kind of really quickly what mistakes you make and don't make.
yeah, no, of course, that right off the bat they were very open and honest, and very, it was humbling to be with two professionals that started us on a good path. And and I think from that, that's why I've always been grateful in wrestling, is because from day one my opportunities are not of the ordinary that people get. So
No, I mean I've seen some extraordinary things, and stories written about you. I think I even saw some with WWE mentioned. We can talk a little bit about that later too.
Yeah,
You
no,
know,
I've had a couple cracks with WWE. So
and that's always so. That's I think at some point. I mean, because I mean at one point we all grew up. If we grew up at certain eras, that was the place to be. That was the federation.
well,
That was everybody's dream. That's the NBA, the NFL, the NHL. All of that
yeah.
for the
Unfortunately,
wrestling fan.
I was the WCW guy though. So while they were open, that was my goal. That was my place I wanted to
WCW,
be.
yeah.
Oh yeah, I was a big W. I was Monday Night Wars. I watched both, but I was pro Nitro. So
By that point, I was in my, late, teens, almost, I was just about graduate. So, wrestling was kind of like, it was kind of fading amongst my friends, and it was only like a certain amount of us that were really watching. There was a lot of us that wanted to actually do something in the business. And we, at the time, the big place was the Kowalski School. But, around that time, I have to say, I was a big, actually, person of just, I was very intrigued by just how much press they were able to grab. At one point, wrestling was, frowned upon maybe, or maybe you were kind of bullied for liking wrestling. I always got in trouble at school. People would always yell at me, it's fake. And I knew it was, but like, there would be fights over it because I'm just sick of hearing it. And, at one point, wrestling got to so mainstream that it was almost the in thing. And it was like, at one point the tables had turned and the people that were bullying us were like, oh, they're not in the in crowd anymore. And it was just a weird experience during that time. And I was just really captivated by the industry and how it was able to just almost, just dominate what was going on between, you had wrestlers making movies, you had, Stone Cold, Rock, all these big names, Cena breaking out. Everybody just, just larger than life characters again. But now you had the technology to spread the word. It wasn't in the 80s, with Hogan and Macho Man. It was, in the 2000s. So I thought that was always just something that was very just intriguing to me and about, how wrestling can be really great or it can be really bad. I can't say I've enjoyed every era of professional wrestling on the mainstream level, you know. But
no,
WCW is a great part of my childhood. To go back to the original part of this, but during that era, I actually watched a lot more WCW than WWE because WWE was taped a lot of the times. So I would just honestly just read the spoilers and just kind of watch the live show.
yeah, no, I try to avoid that early on as a kid. Whenever spoilers were available, I always liked watching the live stream. I liked
You know,
having the opportunity to tape record one show on one TV while the other show I'm watching and kind of flip
well,
back and forth. So it's
it wasn't until they started really like shooting at each other that I just kind of had to flick back and forth. But I even as a kid, like I remember going. I went to the Raw. It was either Worcester or Boston. I can't remember where, but I remember just that Mankind beat The Rock for the title. It was the first time I think Mankind and Mick Foley won the title in WWE, the World Heavyweight. It was just a big, huge moment. The only problem was is that it wasn't on the live episode. It was on the episode that wouldn't be aired till the following week.
exactly, and that's when WCW shot themselves in the foot, gave the spoiler, and everyone decided to switch over and tune in to see Mankind actually win the title. I was
They did, and we were talking like the people were like, you're bullshitting us. That's not gonna happen. Not on a Monday Night Raw. They'll save that for a pay per view or something. And it's just like, but like I said, like that time era. I want to say, during WrestleMania 13, 14, 15, like it was just kind of magical in school because like I don't know, we just incorporated it into our like routine. Like we had a science project of evolution, and like me and my friend had this genius idea. Well, let's do the evolution of pro wrestling. They can't stop us. It's in within the frame, and we did a whole project of it. We started in the early WWF right into where we were,
yo.
and the teacher happened to be a wrestling fan, so it kind of worked out. He was very intrigued by it, but I think that was like a time. I think a lot of fans it just grabbed a lot of people in. that weren't necessarily, might have not necessarily watched the earlier '80s and earlier '90s of Hulk Hogan, Macho Man. They might have been too young, but that those characters that came into our play during the Attitude Era and the early Ruthless Aggression really grabbed, I think, a lot of today's athletes.
No, for sure. Definitely a different time period with how wrestling was, how it, went away for a while with popularity, and now it's feel like now it's back to where it should be, where it's it's talked about, it's shown everywhere across the board. The secrets out. A lot of people know try to know the secrets of the art and business, but I feel like now it gets more intrigued, especially adding more the celebrity aspect. Because during that era when we watched it, you had guys like Dennis Rodman and Jay Leno, Lawrence Taylor. Now they're bringing guys like Logan Paul and Shaquille O'Neal and everything like that. So it's trying to be more mainstream again, which is always good.
Yeah, I mean, even I think that was always, Vince's goal is running it. I mean, he tried in WrestleMania 1. He had Mr. T headlining the show, and he was a very big pop culture icon at the time. Cindy Lauper, all these names, and, now today, like you said, you got all these big names coming in. What was it, about a year or two ago? Bad Bunny came in and pretty much stole the show.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's great to see that it all gets incorporated because it brings in a whole nother fan base. Now, the fan base of this, superstar, pop star might tune in to watch the wrestling, and it gets people even more noticed. And also
Absolutely.
now today, there's more outlet ever. It's back to where you know, it might not be as big as WCW, but AEW is, a decent sized company that's a secondary outlet for a lot of athletes to get shown on television now.
No, for sure. There's a lot of outlets, a lot of media, especially with between the two companies. Now it's not just Raw and SmackDown, Thunder and Nitro. You have all four, their main shows. You have their B shows, their set, their online taping. So there's plenty of opportunity to watch wrestling in many outlets in many aspects.
And for a lot of people, it's not just I can only go and it's either I get to WWE and not now. Now they have I can maybe work AEW. I can maybe work Ring of Honor, New Japan, Impact. There's all these different places that are kind of on the on the main level that you'll be noticed. You'll be notified. It's not just local independent wrestling. And I think that's great. And you said you had some experience with WWE. How was that?
Oh, they were great. They were, you know, some of the biggest moments and opportunities that I had back in 2009. I did mini DX slash mini jury duty with Hornswoggle and DX, and then an in ring segment with Chris Jericho as Santa Claus. That was my first real taste, and then of course the infamous WLC when I got to portray as JBL as a commentator, along with the Micro Cole and a Jerry Smaller, while Hornswoggle and El Torito had one of the first. It was pre pay per view, but it was pay per view matches for people of short stature, which you hadn't seen in so long, which was refreshing and so changing at the times.
Yeah, because I mean, not to not for nothing, but like when I first started watching wrestling, there would always be short statured matches, and like even my grandparents would like go to like Boston Garden to watch matches, and there'd be tons, and there was a lot. There was a big. There was a. I feel like at one point WWE had a large fan base for it.
Absolutely. I mean, especially it's something that's always going to be a part of wrestling. It's always you're gonna have your muscle. You're gonna have your muscled athletes. You're gonna have your high flyers. You're gonna have your women, and then of course you're gonna have your micros, your minis, your midgets. However, they're going to be advertised as. It's what
But
draws. It's part of wrestling.
it does, and I think along the way, a lot of promoters realize that it doesn't always have to be comedic
Oh,
matches either. You can now do serious matches and have it work, have it sell.
yeah, absolutely. Now, everything is, up for interpretation. Where before, when you had, say women, they had to do non wrestling and roll around and do, sexy stuff. When you had the little people or midgets, they had to do comedy because that's what they were only restricted to. But now, 2022. Women can wrestle, some as good as the boys, some better. With us now, we have the opportunity to showcase that we're wrestlers too.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I mean, I remember watching episodes of WWE. It'd be like three against King Kong Bundy, and it'd be like they do slapstick comedy almost like to a Three Stooges level. And it was entertaining, yes, but you knew that they were better athletes than that because they were in shape. They were muscular. They were very fast, quick. They knew they could go beyond that. Um, and it's great to kind of see that back in wrestling. It's kind of a lost art. It's kind of like managers. It's not really there anymore on the main level. You do see a lot in the indie scene, which is great. You know, so you worked WWE and you did that. That was a great opportunity and kind of got your name out there. I would expect.
Yeah, for the most part. I mean, it got a lot of exposure. The As soon as we did the WLC Extreme Rules, Jerry Smaller, aka Short Steve Sampson, started up his own midget wrestling promotion, and I've been part of that since that started right after, and that's because of stuff like that, it's allowed opportunity and just growth for the different aspects in wrestling for me to be a part of.
No, well, most definitely, that's awesome. And I personally first saw you start wrestling in like 2018. I think it was NCW. I believe you were tag teamed up with Bullet Joe.
Yep, Bullet Joe, little giants for a little while.
Yeah, and I don't know if you were champions yet, but you were going after the titles, and I was just like again really intrigued because I hadn't seen little statured wrestlers in probably about 20 years at that point. And I was just like, wow, this is something different. Even my wife now. She was my girlfriend then, but it was like, wow, this is great. Like, we never see anything like this. And it was a very good match. I think it was against Dirt City Murder Crew. I'm not sure. It was a while back, and and then I've been going to NCW ever since. I've been kind of hooked, and that's kind of what got me back into wrestling. After kind of just not really watching it after like 2005 6 when the companies merged. I got very bored. The war kind of was like over, and I was just like, oh. And then ECW lost its ECW. WCW. It just they. In my opinion, I always think this. I always think Vince was smart. He could have let everything just run independently and never, made it public that he owned stuff. And he could have let the war run longer and he could have made more money. ECW could have never even touched. And a lot of wrestling would have kind of changed. And I don't know. I just kind of fell off for a while. And then I went to that show. I was like looking at local stuff. And I ended up in that NCW show that night. And it's been, just I fell in love with the indie scene ever since. And it got me back to watching mainstream, of course, but I still prefer independent wrestling at the moment. So you were tag teamed up there. I think I saw you guys again. It was again. It was supposed to be, I believe, Mad, and you guys were dressed up like Tomahawk.
Yeah. So it was supposed to be us and Mad. It was supposed to be the four of us, but Tomahawk couldn't do the show,
Yep.
so instead we did the spoof where we wore his gear with Bullet on top of my shoulders because we were probably about the same height as Rip Bison, aka Tomahawk at the time. That was fun. I always like wrestling to do with Perry Von Vicious. It's always a good time.
Perry's a great guy. He's become one of my also favorite. Like almost anybody that I saw in 2018, have just like I've instantly fallen in love with. Even people that aren't there anymore, like like Dick Lane and people that you don't see often, like PDAC and other guys. I've just fallen in love with the characters and the people. They're just really nice. NCW is just a really nice promotion. JC Marks runs a great, clean show, and I'm really happy now. Vern's got it. Vern's gonna just, keep the tradition alive. It's gonna, it's always just, it is one of those shows that is for everybody. It can, you can bring your kid, you can bring your grandmother, you can bring whoever you want. It's gonna be a good time no matter what. And that's kind of been my home promotion. I've been checking out Maine, and I've been to a lot of other shows besides that, but I try to catch that all the time. Um, and then I was there during that. the season opener and the fire alarm and all that fun. And then the pandemic hit, everything gets shut down. So what was that like? Because a lot of wrestlers' careers just kind of had to come to a halt.
That was a very unique time for everybody, obviously. So before when the pandemic was starting to brew, myself and Short Sleeve, our company, Midget Wrestling Warriors, we actually had a 2 week tour that was going to start in Oregon and make its way to Calgary, for about a 2 week tour. And literally the night before we were going to get on a plane, everything got shut down because borders were closing. They were doing the limit restrictions on social gatherings, and for almost a whole year we couldn't do anything. It sucked because you're wrestling, you want to be in front of people, you want to be in a ring.
And that,
JC did the behind closed doors for a while, which was awesome. I always have appreciation for the studio taping aspects of wrestling, but it was hard. You miss people a lot from just that pandemic era.
yeah, it was definitely kind of a weird thing, even as fans and everything. We were there one day. We had, I think, tickets to the Bristol show the next day. They were gonna run, I think, NCW X rated too, and like that was gonna happen. There was a bunch of things that we just were already lined up. I had tickets to almost every show going, and all of a sudden, you're hearing these reports, things are going, things are not, and then all of a sudden, poof, shut down. And like you said, there was no outlets for a minute. If and a lot of wrestlers had no schools to go to, no training. You need weekly training. You need gym work. You're gonna get your muscles are gonna get chill. You're not going to be able to perform as you're going to get rusty after a while. I mean, I used to box, and if I didn't maintain at least some level of physicality, I would be sluggish.
Mm-hmm. And
And
no.
it was great to see the companies with schools find workarounds. I know and all the tapings, and you had Limitless up in Maine running their show. The road, you had NCW behind closed doors. Beyond got involved and started doing tapings. Chaotic started doing tapings and opening their school up a little bit. So students had some outlets to work, and people had places to work. And that's when I started to really kind of grasp at the indie scene and just be like, this is really good. I've seen people struggling. I read posts. People. I know how it works. I know how you got to work a lot on the weekends. You got to sell merch. You got to do all this to make money at it. It's not just going to appear. There's not contracts. Not on the indie scene. So I did my best during that era to try to I bought a lot of merch. I'll say I just tried to buy as much merch as I could, and support people. I bought probably over 500 to 600 T-shirts and different items. And then I started to sponsor some shows that were starting to run and start up, especially the tapings. I did a bunch in Limitless. I did some NCW shows, sponsored some matches. Tried to help out where I could, and that's also where I started the podcast because there was all this now wrestling to talk about, and there was at one point, to be honest, there was almost as much wrestling going on during the week in the pandemic than there is going on now because there was like 4 or 5 tape shows running at one night a week. So there was a lot of wrestling to talk about and a lot of different you got to kind of watch at a different pace and kind of learn more about the characters and kind of get behind them and interact more, and you were watching in YouTube with other fans and you were meeting fans at a different pace and you were able to talk to them. It was a very interesting time. I can't say I hated that pandemic era because it kind of spawned a lot for me in the aspect that I got out there. I met a lot of people. I met a lot of wrestlers, talking to them. Met a lot of just great individuals that kind of taught me a lot of just cool things.
Yeah, no, it was crazy time, crazy
But
time. But it's always good to have the support.
it was, and it was good to, like I said, I was very happy to see, when NCW, said they were going to do behind closed doors and other promotions, because I knew that that would give you guys an outlet and a place to go. It meant you could work somewhat to some capacity, but of course it wasn't the same. Fans, are like 90% of the show. You need that live energy. It must have been kind of awkward working in front of your peers and just, everybody being, cheering and boom, but you know who they are.
No, it's awkward, but I came up in an era where studio taping for matches was very common to get your work out there, even while you were doing live shows. So it's kind of, even though everyone wants to be in front of the actual fans, doing the studio taping was a good, nice callback to earlier stuff that I used to do. So, you make the best of it. You got to
Oh
roll with
yeah,
it and
definitely.
keep going.
I help a friend run studio tapings out of Woonsocket. I mean, it's a great place to kind of for wrestlers to get a feel without going in front of that crowd yet if they're not ready, and they can make mistakes, and it's okay, and there's editing involved, and there's a lot of things you can do and learn there in that kind of stage of wrestling. And I wish a lot of companies would do it because I think it is a great learning point and starting point for a lot of people. So the pandemic ends though, and now things are starting to open. You start wrestling again, of course. But now I see you in NCW doing more of the singles thing.
Yeah, my unfortunately my partner had to step down from professional wrestling to pursue other opportunities and things that he had. So I was kind of left without a tag partner and back to the single life, as I call it. And I was trying to find my stride again, because for a couple years, being in a tag team, I was more reliant on that aspect. But it was good.
Yeah,
It
and you
was
had the whole, little giants, and he was little stature too, so it kind of was cool. It all worked out.
not.
Um,
It was good.
but then I saw, did I see that you were tagged up a little bit time for with the doctor?
For a bit, they had for NCW. They put us together for a little bit with the doctor. Kind of do, it's kind of hard to say, but I guess they NCW saw like a veteran type tag team with veteran wrestlers, so it was very odd to be tagged as a veteran wrestler, but at the same time, to be tagging with Doc was a lot of fun. When I grew up, when I first started in the business, he was having a big impact. He was wrestling a lot more then, and he had a lot of influence in Springfield area, the West Side. So to be able to tag with someone that coming into wrestling I was always watching and looking at was a lot of fun, and especially for Doc, because he took so much time off. He left a, an era of wrestling and then came back to a whole new world of wrestling. So to kind of see him come back anew in different eyes was pretty different and cool.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I thought, and I even seeing Doc kind of there was just just a kind of cool, kind of nostalgic kind of thing. And I guess it must be kind of weird you be considered a vet, but if you're saying you trained in '06, that's kind of a vet now. It's almost 20 years.
Almost catching up. April 27th, I'll be celebrating my 16th year doing show matches.
And that's great. That's great. You have, the heart for it totally. You can see it in your work today. And like I said, now you're back on the single scene though. You're doing that little tag. And I saw some great work with you and Brett Ryan Gosling. Just a great feud. Just it really just it was great storytelling.
Yeah, no, it was good. It was definitely good to be doing that with Brett. Some people like him, some people don't, but he was the perfect kid to be paired up against and have the matches that we did, especially early on when he first started. From where he came from, I saw him. So from that start to this aspect, it was a long time coming.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm a huge fan of BRG, and even when I first started watching, he was world champion. But I was very intrigued at that aspect too because again, I saw someone that wasn't 7 foot 300 pounds holding a title. He was someone that was normal size that you could be like, well, this is actually obtainable. Wow, this might actually be real. What I'm saying? It's someone that looks like a friend or could be a friend. It was very interesting to me, and he was very captivating on the mic. I'm a big fan of Hales. I think they. I love when they. I just love seeing them work, and it's very interesting to me. And BIG was just one of those people on the mic that could just really get under people's skin. I could see it. I looked around and people were just, just getting so angry. And I
Very.
loved it. I loved it. He had that almost like, he had almost at the time, I mean, it's hard to explain. Like I said, like I hadn't really seen people get that upset over professional wrestling since like probably, like the Attitude Era.
Yeah, no, not a
And
lot of
then
people like
he
Brett.
was just just drawing people out like MJF is now, and just getting people so mad, and I was just like, okay, I'm sold. And the feud with you and him was just, like I said, I think it was a great matchup as well, just chemistry wise. And I mean, I didn't get to go to the Bristol show. I'm yet to get to a Bristol show. Unfortunately, it's always something that comes up during Bristol.
Yeah,
I don't know why.
Bristol's my home. It's where our typical fans go, but we also get my friends, family, coworkers, and when I say everybody, everybody hates Brett Ryan Gosling over there. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah. See, I feel like he gets his like Connecticut buddies that come to get him, but not so they don't go to Bristol. I like I said, like the first time I had tickets, it was the pandemic, and like I was just trying to get out there. I'm gonna try because I heard it's like a fun experience, and it's a little bit different than Dedham, and sometimes you get different matchups, of course, and sometimes you even get different wrestlers. So it's something I definitely want to check out. But you did beat him. You made him pack up and leave. He's no longer with NCW.
correct. It was my career or his job at NCW, and had to do what I had to do in order to keep going. So
So out he went, and you won that, and I think you got some nice momentum from it. And then coming into WrestleFest, I mean, let's kind of catch up here now. Where you entered into you know, that very kind of uh, prestigious, Rumble for the Ox Baker Cup. It changes people's lives, and you were in there. You were one of the contestants, participants, and I don't know which number you came in. I'm not too sure, but
I was the last one. They
were
saved
you,
the
were you
very
the
last.
last one?
Yep, I drew lucky number. I think it was 10. It was 10 of us, so I drew lucky number 10.
That
And
is
everyone,
lucky because number one, it's always it might not happen. Even with 10 people, it might not happen. You get tired, and if people don't like you, if 3 or 4 of them will gang up on you and just throw you out or beat you. But you got number 10, and I saw you in there with Nix and just kind of battling it out with the Mariner there, and he's obviously much bigger and more brute. But you came out victorious. You took the win. You took the cup. How was that?
it was pretty cool. It was my second time winning the Ox Baker Cup. Obviously, the first one was I called out Brett Ryan Gosling for the first time. Gave him heads up notice of when I was challenging. But this one was pretty cool. 2022. This was my last show for the year, so it was very cool to have a good season cup match. First time I got in the ring really one on one with Dylan Nix, and it's good. I've met Ox Baker before, so not a lot of people have in this age coming in. So to me, it's an honor to win a cup that has his face on it. But also too, it was good to just be in a high note, being the graces of Dedham. Dedham's always a good crowd, especially all the kids that go and
Yeah,
everyone's
it's like
there.
their money. It's like winning the money in the bank. It's that glory, and it's even more means something if you know the history behind that cup, and what it means to somebody. Ox Baker was a very extraordinary individual in the professional wrestling, and he holds, a lot of high standard, like almost like Killer Kowalski, just, a name that, just holds such heritage and prestige. So to win anything, with the name involved is just, a high honor in itself. Not to mention the perk you could choose, any title to go after at any kind of time.
Absolutely. Any title, anytime. Before they've used it to cash in at the New England title, the NCW heavyweight title, as BRG did before in the past. So, creates a lot of opportunity for a whole year to live up to with that cup.
One of my favorite moments is when Dick Lane kind of took advantage and beat Montero while he was already straitjacketed.
Yeah,
That
no,
that's
that
that's
that
smart
was that was
thinking.
hilarious. I loved that. I had no, not a lot of us knew what Dick was gonna do with the trophy, and Mike Montero was stuck in the middle of the ring in the straight jacket, and it was a good opportunity and provided a great moment for Dick.
That's great. You know, and this year, coming into it, I was, like I said, a lot of great matchups, a lot of things. We saw some title changes. We saw Dolly Desamont, beat Channing Thomas and kind of he robbed Channing. I wouldn't say beat him. He robbed him of that title.
Oh yeah.
And then, we see you come out again, almost like Hulk Hogan in like '93.
Whoa, no. We won't compare that one. We won't compare that one. I'm never a fan of that WrestleMania. Never.
See, I
Never.
was there. I have to be a fan of it.
Uh,
But you come out, and it was a perfect opportunity because these two have just battled it out. They're a little tired. Um, and here's your moment. Here's your shot. It's do or die now for you because you cashed in. Either you win or lose. If you lose, it's over. If you win, you're the champion. But if you lose, it's nothing. You go home with nothing. No cup. No nothing. It's done. What's going through your head? What are you thinking? How are you pumping yourself up for this?
yeah, so I was pumped myself. So a small a stat made last year. In NCW, there was only one Triple Crown winner, one person to hold the heavyweight title, New England title, and the tag team titles. And his name was Scotty Vegas Alexander Lee, as he transformed into after last year when Kellen won the New England title. Finally, last year he became the second person to be added to that list, and that's something I wanted to be a part of. Because going to that vet thing, I looked around NCW. I like to think of myself as one of the guys that's been there carrying the flag, and I wanted to cement myself as a champion. As a kid, that's the title you always want to go for. Whatever company you're in, their main title is should be the goal on everybody. So have the cup, and I'm just watching, and I see Darley and Channing. I didn't think they were going to go as long as they did, and they kept going, and they were hitting each other pretty bad. And you know, I'm gonna say I'm always pro Thomas, and saw that he got robbed, and referee didn't see it. There's nothing he can do, but I don't want the fans to leave the end of the year on a sour note. So I took my shot. I took my chance on Darley. I've never been in the ring with them. Never really done much with Darley, so I took my shot and went right for the W.
And I think I was sitting in the fans. The fans were behind you. Shoot, Shannon was behind you. He was helping. He was making sure that you weren't going to be robbed either. And
Yeah,
it was
if
just
if he
this
if he
match.
wasn't there, I would have gotten robbed. That's the thing. That's you know,
That is
uh,
the facts. And but you came out victorious. And I think Dolly was kind of shocked. I could see his face. He was like, "What just happened?" Easy come, easy go. But what a moment for you, in the ring. Just is it? You captured the gold. You did it. You did it at WrestleFest. The last show, the biggest show of the year, main event. Closing it out. You're just in the ring holding the title. It's just, you're done. You reached the top of the mountain right now.
Absolutely. It was an honor. It's a privilege. It's something that I take pride in knowing that I took the brand new NCW heavyweight title, put it in my bag, and brought it home. That's been my home since I've started. They were the second besides Bob's company when because he was training me. That's the place that opened up their doors and gave me a home and gave me an opportunity to grow. So as long as I've been wrestling, and I've always been loyal and humble to that place, and I just you never take anything for granted, but I really wanted this one this year, and I got it.
Definitely, definitely. And congratulations again. It's been a hell of an ending for you. Just, the last shows just kind of just banging out, beating BRG, getting past that. And, Had he won, you wouldn't even be in the company right now. You would have never had the opportunity to, capture the gold. So I mean,
No,
he's already past
I
that.
would have been done. I would have been done completely. It was my career. My career was on the line, and I was a man of my word. That's why even for WrestleFest, I didn't have a match. I got the last spot in the season cup because they didn't want to put me in a match in case and don't win.
And that's the thing, it's just how the dice roll, and you took that over and you just capitalize. Great to see. Now they're on hiatus till next year. They usually take time off. Are you taking time off now until next year? Are you still working other promotions?
So I have, I think, top rope in a couple weeks, but normally because of my other job outside of wrestling, usually December and January, I try to limit what I do. Just one for that, and also recovery time, because then usually every year, once March, April, and May come around, my other company with Midget Wrestling Warriors, we get a lot busier. We have a lot more show opportunities. So I
Yeah.
try to make sure I'm well, and prepared for that as well. So not only next year do I have to worry about the Midget Wrestling Warriors, I also have to worry about defending my now NCW heavyweight title against whoever could be coming for it.
There's gonna be a lot of contenders, I think, coming for that title. You have a lot of people kind of working up their way up the ladder again. It'll be interesting to see who will be first to kind of step up and be like, I want to challenge you.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of people, guys and girls at NCW right now that any one of them could challenge, and it would be a great opportunity. It would be a great match to have with anybody over in that locker room. But
People just gonna have to wait and see that season opener, and just kind of stay tuned to all these social media. They can check it all out, kind of follow along, see everything that's happening, and I said New Year will be here soon, and a lot of wrestling will be taking place, and it'll be a great time again. I always look forward to New Year wrestling because I think a lot of wrestlers do take that time, like you said, to kind of reflect on their last year. They kind of work on their mistakes, but they also change their physiques. They work on themselves. They get better. They might even change gimmicks. They might do all sorts of different things during that time frame, and you see a different person when they come back. It's always great to see what you're gonna get that next year coming back.
of course, absolutely.
But we know one thing: you'll be a fighting, defending champion. You've been a fighter, the whole time I've seen you in NCW, and like you said, I think you're almost synonymous with that promotion. If I think of people that I think of people like you and Vern, and you know, all these great wrestlers from the that have been with the company for a long-standing time, and it's great to see, again, thank you for coming on my show. I really appreciate you taking the time. You know, I know
No,
being a champion isn't easy, but
no, thank you for having me. This was awesome. This was a good time. Anytime, I'd love to come on.
sounds great. Thank you very much. You have yourself a great weekend, and we'll see you, at the next show. Have a good
Absolutely.
one.
We'll see you in 2023.
Hell yeah.
Bye.
What a great, person. I love Robbie. He's great. You see him wrestle, but to actually talk to him, he's just, a great individual. I really do, again, thank him for coming on the show, taking the time with us, talking, you know, wrestling, and just kind of going through, the history and story. It's been great, and we got a lot of things coming. We got a lot of interviews coming up, so stay tuned over the next course of the weeks because we're gonna have a lot of people coming on, talking and doing different things. So stay tuned, everybody. Have yourself a good